Welcome everyone to our Technology and High-Tech Manufacturing Career Panel, brought to you by Career Connect Southwest at ESD 112. This is the seventh in a series of 7 virtual career panels available here on this YouTube page. We hope these panels will familiarize you with some jobs and maybe even help you choose your own career path. Thank you to the middle school and high school students who submitted questions for today's panel. And now to our moderator, Scott.
Thank you, Chad. Welcome, everyone. We are very excited to have you here, and I just want to also say thank you to the students who submitted questions in advance. We're always excited to have those. If your question isn't addressed specifically, it's because we simply ran out of time. But we are excited to have everyone on today, and we're going to get started with a brief introduction from each of our panelists. It's a great panel, very diverse, and in terms of career paths and knowledge. Obviously, technology is a very broad field. So we'd like to start out with an introduction and a bit of background about who we have on today. So if you'd be willing to share, Sunanda, let's start with you.
So hi, everyone. My name is Sunanda. I'm the science director of a lab at the University of Chicago, which is called STAGE. STAGE stands for Scientists, Technologists, and Artists Generating Exploration. It's a full-scale laboratory embedded in the engineering, science and engineering school, devoted to collaboration between artists and scientists. And we focus on creating and developing new theater and film work inspired by science and technology.
A fascinating combination of artistic interest and technology. So we're going to talk about that in a little bit. Bob, how about you?
Yeah, Scott, I'm Bob Bryant. I'm a business intelligence data engineer with HP with a focus in supply chain. So we're really looking at corralling and making use of the broad set of data that we have available in order to manage the production and distribution of product to end customers.
Great, thanks, Bob. Frank?
Yeah, thank you. Good morning. My name is Frank Aff. I currently actually am the founder of my own company called AOA, and it's focused on helping businesses optimize processes and improve performance and develop their leaders. And it really started with technology, and most of my career has been in telecommunications, and that started with me joining the Air Force and right out of high school and learning about fiber optics and cable splicing. And that led to really the majority of my career in telecommunications, starting out as a technician and working on data systems and circuits, and then it went into management, and really the base of my career was in technology. So very excited to talk more today about just the possibilities within technology.
Yeah, that's great. Isn't it amazing how one thing leads to another in your career path? Neelam, how about introducing yourself?
Hi, so I'm Neelam. I am an electrical engineer. I work now with Intel in Arizona, and I've been working in the capacity of a research engineer. So we work on technology, which is maybe 5 to 10 years out there, and I'm a recent college grad, so I've just been here for a year and still getting a taste of what industry really is. And I graduated from Iowa State.
Okay. And how, just out of curiosity, how has the job world met your expectations?
Oh, yes, and it keeps evolving because it's research and it's very fast paced, so definitely a different pace from grad school. And I think as soon as I think I'm getting comfortable in something, it starts moving again. So I think there's a growing challenge all the time.
Yeah.
But I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I take that as a good thing.
Yeah.
Thank you. Devon, who we have online, we're not going to be able to get his picture on, but Devon, if you're there, would you introduce yourself?
Hi, yes, I'm Devon. I'm a apprentice at SEH America, and I have just recently started my career in working here. Been here for almost 2 years. In SEH, they make silicon wafers. Those things go into either computer parts or solar panels, and I am an apprentice, but I'm also doing some technician work at the moment.
Great. Great. Thank you all. Very excited to have this conversation. Devon, I'm going to stay with you because this is something that's happening essentially in our backyard here in Southwest Washington. Can you speak a little bit to the program that SEH has in terms of the internship available to students that are interested in exploring high-tech manufacturing and what that experience was like for you?
Yeah, I can. I was part of the first cohort, so the first group of apprentices, and I started the apprenticeship right out of high school. Like a month after graduation is when I started working here and also going to college at Clark College. And they basically help you out with paying for your tuition at college, and they put you on a mechatronics degree pathway. And so you'll go to classes at Clark and also be working at SEH part-time, and you'll get training on stuff here at SEH.
Okay. And can you tell us what the Mechatronics program entails?
Mechatronics, it combines machining and electronics. And so you'll learn a lot about how electronics work and how different machines can operate. Recently, I've just taken PLCs, programmable logic controllers, so like little mini computers for the machines, and that was a really fun class. And taken quite a few classes at Clark, and they're all been very interesting so far for me.
And are you working full time now then at SEH?
No, I'm still in the apprenticeship, still working part time.
Okay, great. Okay, I'm going to switch gears then. Sunata, just from your brief description of, you're obviously a very technical person, but you've also combined that with your interest in art. Can you speak more to your career path and how you were able to combine those two things together?
Yeah, thank you. I think like the opportunities came as I started looking for them. So my path was very traditional STEM path because I did my PhD in quantum electronics at Northwestern University, and then I really got interested in the design aspect of designing, like, equipment in the lab, building electronics. And so I looked for a job in product design first and started working in a small design firm, helping them with electronics and building out the product design. And that's where I met a lot of designers who were making all these stories about the products we were trying to design and sell. And that was really interesting because the stories really came from what the end user, someone using a plastic bottle or eating a bag of chips, what is their story of why they would use this. And I started thinking myself of why shouldn't I do this with my science? That will be cool. It'll get the word out. It'll help get a better understanding. And then I started looking for opportunities, and I was very lucky because there's my lab stage at the University of Chicago, where I was also in Chicago, and they Nancy was the director of stage. I met with her, and she was doing a play about DNA folding, and I got involved in that, and then we started talking more about a long-term position, and I joined as a postdoc in the same lab.
Very, very interesting. I have a student question here that I'd like to follow on with. I'm just going to read it verbatim because it fits with what you were just talking about. And the question is, what are some of the challenges of working with other people while planning and designing a product, both from an engineering perspective and socially? What are the challenges?
I don't know whether to call it challenges or something to think about while designing a product, is really thinking about what the end user needs, because often, you can come up with the best engineering design, but it might still not address the needs of what someone actually is looking for, And so what we often did in our design firm was there was a research time where we would go to like say a supermarket or like wherever the product is available and look at the variety and the options and talk to various focus groups and try to find out really from the perspective of the audience of like listening to what their needs are and using that to inform the design of the product rather than saying this is the best engineering design and everyone should use this. We were asking them, what do you really need? What are you struggling with? What are your challenges? And we'll try to design backward from that.
Okay. So a lot of what I would call human factors, right?
Definitely.
Design. Okay.
Yeah.
Bob, I have a question here for you. A student is interested in what sorts of technical direction they should have in terms of coding and languages. And I imagine that, you've had many, many years in this industry and you're not using the same tools from a technology perspective or a coding perspective that you did when you started. Can you speak a little bit to the evolution that you went through in terms of consistent learning, I'll say, and where you would direct a student today if they were to be interested in the work that you do?
Well, if it's specific to my work, that's really focused on data management, database technology. If they're after general programming, I guess my advice there is go with what the school program offers. If you're not going to do self-study, that is, because I can look back even say 20 years ago, a student would be in an undergraduate might be focused on learning C, learning the basics of data structures and algorithms and program design. 10 years ago, the focus may have been Java, but still they were learning the same rudimentary pieces of data structures and algorithms and so on. And today, maybe they're doing that same sort of instruction, but instead in Python. But fundamentally, the rudiments are to me are basically the same. It's just the environment is different, some of the context is different. And if students and professionals just keep in mind that evolution is not going to stop. And if you just stay adaptable and stay curious and be able to transport your fundamentals into a new environment, then you'll just flow with it.
And you mentioned something important there, which leads to a different question that a student had, which is how much of their learning can be online? How much is available versus being in a structured program? And do you see that as a valid use of their time to go after their own learnings with what's available online today?
I think there are a lot of really good resources, and they go from ad hoc, unstructured to very structured, and then into university programs. Just consider things like YouTube and Udemy and LinkedIn Learning, things of that nature. There are all kinds of resources, many of which are free. But then the next tier, what I see is popular among some who are wanting to develop technical skills very quickly and then get into the workforce, are coding boot camps. These are run by private companies, but from what I've read anyway, I don't have any direct experience with them, but from what I've read, they're very effective at developing and honing a very certain set of technical skills that'll enable that person then to enter the workforce very, very quickly. And then, of course, there's a traditional university program as well.
I would like to add that maybe since joining industry, definitely it's been a change of mindset that I used to think initially learning ended in school and, I'm going to use it in my job. But since I've evolved that it's a lifelong process and I have to keep at it and keep current with the latest trends. So definitely had to seek out resources, and there's a lot available out there. So that's been helpful.
That's a good perspective, Neelam. Keeping on with your work as a theme, can you tell us what a research scientist does at Intel? What is the work that you undertake every day? And the question I had from a student is, how much freedom do you have to choose the projects that you work on?
I think I'll answer it in two parts. So first, I think my day-to-day doesn't look very different from what I would do in grad school as a student researcher. You know, I set up my own experiments and I try to ask different questions and see that I can actually solve a problem I'm looking at. And the only main difference maybe is that the time scale is much shorter because I do have a team to help me at any point. So I don't spend a lot of time getting stuck as if back in grad school during my PhD, I'm stuck in the problem and, you know, I'm trying to get through it. But there's a lot of push to keep moving fast. So definitely a lot of faster paced work and getting through experiments and trying to validate any of the ideas we come up with. About the freedom, so in the beginning, since I'm just starting my career, we sort of get into projects which are already existing, but we are highly encouraged to keep coming up with ideas which can maybe start growing into something else. So I see my senior colleagues and they do have their own projects which they have found during the way or their learning at the industry.
Mm-hmm. And you say we a lot. Are you working as a team?
Definitely. So yes, and we have many teams actually, and different projects have maybe teams of 4 to 5 or even larger, which can be across countries at this point because we collaborate with people in Malaysia and Germany, so along different time zones as well.
Well, I work extensively with colleagues outside of the U.S. They're scattered all around the world, and that just seems to be the norm. I mean, I'd say in the last 10 to 15 years that's really been a hard pivot for us and many companies. Mm-hmm. And it's really great because the perspectives are so different. Not only do you have different processes and different ways of doing business in different regions, but people approach problem solving differently. I mean, we're all humans, but we all approach things very differently. And that's always a really great eye-opener for me. I love that exposure and that ability to collaborate and see how to approach problem solving from a completely different perspective, a way that I wouldn't have thought of on my own at all. So that's always been great. I've been able to spend extended time in places like Singapore, in Germany, multiple trips to India, many trips to Mexico, just working with all kinds of really great, both technical people and business people.
Frank, I want to come back to your career path because earlier you mentioned, you know, that sort of one thing led to another in your career, and here you are now. You own your own business. Can you talk a little bit about your experiences at the entry level job? And what you learned from those experiences as you move forward?
Really find the value in anything you do. I had random part-time jobs as in school and high school, working at a restaurant or a grocery store. And there's things that are valuable to anything that you're doing in the future, whether it's be customer service or conflict resolution or working with inventory and things like that are so important. But, you know, really technology-based. I mean, I needed a way to be able to, I knew what I wanted to do, which at the time I thought was really engineering. I love technology, understanding how things worked, but I didn't have the financial resources to get there. And so I joined the Washington Air National Guard as part of the Air Force in order to help me with that training and those resources to go to school. And that really did help me get started to where then even when I was first going to school, I was working part-time and at a bank and then worked in a fiber optic for a fiber optic contractor. And still it's just a matter of then applying what I had learned in the military to that next job and then being able to grow. I got more training there with the equipment side. So kind of crossing over from working with the cables outside to the equipment. And then that led to the opportunity that I had with, it was General Telephone or GTE at the time, where I got a network technician role, which was a great job, much more pay. I started working full time and was really able to apply a lot of the things that I'd learned in the military and with that fiber optic contractor, and use that to, it really helped my career.
Yes, I think, yeah, both Bob and Frank, I would kind of resonate with what they are saying about growing and also taking up the opportunities as they come and seeking them out really, because I feel like just now, especially with so much changing in the world, like there's technology is changing every day, and academia is, this high-tech technology is coming from industry to academia and back to industry. And so things are changing so quickly every day. And so it's very difficult to be a specialist of one thing because everything is evolving so quickly. And so I think having a very broad foundation and really trying to learn as broadly and keeping the education as broad as possible and really trying to find new avenues of learning whatever you're interested in. And I feel like the career will happen based on what the person is today, because there's no, like, the jobs are not hyper specialized anymore. People are looking for, you might have a technology skill, but maybe someone has an edge over you because they have an additional language skill. So, just having worked, having come from India, and then I did my undergrad in France, and then now I'm in the US, I feel like every layer contributes and adds to me as a person, and I become more valuable. So I think like just having a very broad access to and seeking out opportunities of all kinds, whatever might be somebody's interest, whether in research, academia, technology, languages, like a more holistic approach is what an interdisciplinary approach might be a very good way to like tackle a future career goal.
Yeah, there are a lot of opportunities for training in different areas, as well as quite a few different career paths that's available to me based off of what I want to learn and what I'm more best fit for. Earlier on, in the beginning of my training, I was doing a lot more physical work. I'm much more of a data person. And so after asking to see if there's any better positions for me, I got moved to a different area that better fit my needs, and I was much able to learn these skills there a lot faster.
And, so it was a better fit from a technology perspective, or from what perspective?
Yeah, definitely more technology, more data, more numbers instead of fixing and what's the word? Doing maintenance. And I still learn skills from being in both areas, and definitely with that. In combination with the learning at college, there's a lot of different career paths I can go to depending on what I want to do here.
Great. And I'll also ask you, Neelam, in Intel, it's obviously a large corporation worldwide. Do you find that your continuous learning is from the projects that you're doing, or do you also seek out or will you seek out outside of your project work? Do you also take on learning offered by Intel or from other sources to continue your learning?
So I think I would add that people and communities play a very big role for me. So I really am still connected to my communities from grad school and from at work now. And I do rely on them for a lot of my learning and also opportunities. So internally, of course, my team is a big resource, but I do rely on, say, some online learning, but I mean, it doesn't grow if I don't share it with others, for me at least. So I need to have that input from others, even my sister out here. So it's a sort of family / educational network here.
Yeah, good. Well, that leads to another student question, which is about mentors for you collectively. Have you had them, and how did they make a difference for you?
Since I'm online, maybe. So basically, I do acknowledge a lot of who I am today is because of how my mentors guided me or challenged me to think differently, because I mean, they asked me to grow beyond my comfort zone, and that was uh, scary to do just by myself. So it was good to have that support network who could push you along and say, okay, keep going, you know, you're on the right path.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else?
Similar to me, I can recall a couple of different managers in my career that saw something in me that I didn't see in myself, and they pushed me to really kind of exploit that and develop it further. One happened to do with systems and data, going back, gosh, in the early 90s. I mean, back when I was in my 20s, and I remember him telling me something, and I didn't really get it fully at the time. And it was, he said, he basically said, you're like me when I was young. And so what he did is he had become a manager, and he took steps to get me involved in certain projects along the way, which I was able to do because of the skills profile I had. Plus he saw the interests that I had, and because they aligned with his, it made it real easy for him to see a path that I couldn't see for myself. And I remember that being very instrumental in setting a certain direction for me early on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's amazing what that influence can be. As a general question, I'll ask this of you because I think sometimes students are reluctant to reach out to folks to learn about their careers. And my experience has been that people who have been successful and have progressed in their careers do welcome that engagement. What are your thoughts around that observation?
Oh, I mean, you have to be open to grow. So, you know, for me, when I got advice or someone was willing to share the observations or the feedback with me, you know, I embraced it and took it forward. I think if you isolate yourself in any way, you're just going to run into barriers. So if you're self-motivated and can find those opportunities and grow, or if you're lucky enough to have someone who can see things in you that you can't see yourself, then I think you're exceptionally lucky.
But I would also say that I think, just as you had said, I think by nature, when we're younger, sometimes it feels like it's either naturally intimidating or maybe out of bounds to go and talk to somebody and ask for help, or ask, hey, how did you do this? You know, how did you do what you've accomplished? And I can't stress enough how important it is to take that step and take the initiative. Definitely do not wait and sit and think, you know, if I just work hard, somebody's going to come and they're going to recognize that and they're going to lift me up. And it's definitely do not make that mistake. And so if you see something, whether it's art, whether it's working with your mind or working with your hands, you like to work outside or inside, whatever that may be, go and try to find jobs that are within your natural interest, and go talk to somebody and reach out, whether it's through your teacher or a parent, depending on your age, so that you're safe. But, you know, reach out and talk to people that are doing that job. And most people are very eager and willing to share their experience. That not only are you getting that information, but you might be getting an advocate, somebody who's like, you know what, we've got an internship program this summer, or let me write you a letter of recommendation, or call a friend or a colleague. It can be huge, life-changing.
Mm-hmm. Well said, Frank. I see a lot of nodding. Anybody have additional comments on that?
Yeah, as somebody who is just really starting up their career, definitely asking for help and advocating for yourself is very important. I said earlier on during this, I was in an area that I didn't like, that wasn't a good fit for me. And if I didn't advocate for myself to get a change in area, or to ask what would be a better area for me, I probably would have stayed in that area I didn't like and have a very different experience that wouldn't have been as positive as what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
So definitely ask for help, ask for assistance, ask questions. It's always good to speak your voice. People will take note of that.
Good perspective, Devon. I had a mentor once tell me it's related to this, which is we tend to think of conversations we have with folks as what we want to say. And this mentor told me that approach conversations and the challenge you have is what did you learn from that conversation? So you go into it wanting to learn, and if you didn't learn, then that was something to work on. So we are running out of time, and I really appreciate all of you and your input. I do want to ask one last question because it is a theme for us in these career panels and they're very good thoughts. Be open to new inputs, be open to connecting with people, work hard, follow your curiosity. And I just want to go beyond that for those students that are looking for specific advice. Is there any advice that you would have for them beyond those topics that I just listed?
I may add that, as Bob mentioned, be open to learning, and also try to follow, if you find something that is maybe not exactly related to technology, but you can connect it as Bob has done, I would say pursue it, because you never know where it might lead you. So be open to other areas, because it's becoming very interdisciplinary now. So it may merge at some point with what you really do. So, and you may like doing both of them.
Oh, something I can just add is also like to think of your education as a part of the career itself. Like I think academics and what you're studying directly translates to what you're going to use in the real world. And just now to think of it in that way, and feel free to, when you're in industry, connect back to your academic roots, and vice versa is important to let you grow further.
Yeah, it's a continuous learning. It doesn't stop after you leave school. I agree. Yeah. Frank, you were going to say something else?
I would say there's two main things that I would just like to share quickly. One is really look at your natural interest. I would encourage every student or young professional to start there. What are the things that you naturally do? If you get an afternoon to yourself, what are the things that you really enjoy, doing? And think about that. How could I do something? What kind of field could I work in that would really, I'd be able to enjoy and kind of play in this space that I enjoy naturally, as opposed to working against yourself. Again, because there's so much diversity in what's out there with technology, and that technology has a part in, whether it's art or medicine or science, et cetera. I think that can be so key.
All right. Unfortunately, we are at the conclusion here. I think this has been an excellent panel. I want to thank all of you, and thank you to the students who are watching this. And I will turn it back now to Chad for the concluding comments.
Thank you, Scott, and thank you to all of our panelists for a great discussion. This was our final career panel of the 2019-2020 school year. Thank you to our viewing audience for being a part of this project with us. A big thank you to the many students who submitted questions for our panelists over these last couple of months. And thanks to everyone who's viewing it today and joining us in this video. Thanks from all of us at Career Connect Southwest at ESD 112. Goodbye.